Do you want to get into the 2024?
Yeah. Let's do 2024. What we think AI is going to be like, or what's going to happen in the field. Um, yeah, I mean, we're ending the year on a pretty interesting note with kind of Google saying that they have a model that should be as good, if not better, than GPT-4, but isn't released yet.
Yeah.
And then upgrades to their chatbot Bard now has a lower, something comparable to GPT 3.5, I think. Microsoft is going to be leaning into everything OpenAI does, so they might have GPTs. OpenAI is going to have a GPT store. They've released these new APIs a month ago, which means people are building with vision. People are doing more with the text to speech, like talking to AI. And there's cheaper access to GPT-4 than there was before. So people have access to build apps using that model that aren't going to be as expensive. Outside of that, there's something I've seen a lot about recently, Pico, which is it's a video, it's like text to video generation. It's not that great yet, but it's better than what a lot of people have seen. So like Pika and Runway are two of the main ones that you'd see.
Yeah.
And Midjourney is still a huge company that could do some crazy stuff. And then there's all the smaller companies. You have, Claude and Poe and a bunch, everybody's trying to get to make AGI for the most part. There's a lot of other use cases that are happening. So yeah, for me, I think we're going to see hopefully we're going to see much more adoption with GPTs because people will be able to use specific chatbots very easily rather than have to go into ChatGPT. I always kind of assumed people would go to ChatGPT, try out a few things and be like, oh, this is fun. But if they don't pay for it, they're like, this isn't that useful for me. I think the idea of a GPT where you have people building on top of OpenAI and getting to use GPT-4 basically for free and send people GPTs, we're going to see a lot more people using it. It might be a slow roll, but I think for OpenAI, that's big.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will trickle down to Microsoft, which would be cool. So I think we just see a lot more people starting to be like, oh yeah, this is kind of like I'm using GPTs, or I'm using Copilot by Microsoft, or if Google does really well, be like, oh, I'm starting to use Bard more. And I think probably by the end of the year, we see like way increased people understanding that they can do stuff with it. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it makes sense. I do think that there will be more specialization and less use of foundation models because they're just so broad and they lack the context to provide good outputs. I think on most of the things I want to do with it, the more context I provide, the better, which is why I like to talk to it. Because when I speak, I'm able to just ramble off the top of my head and provide as much context as possible to get the best. Like I feel like I always get better answers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. So I do think that I definitely agree about GPTs. I think that that it makes perfect sense that Microsoft's going to piggyback on that and have those GPTs available as a part of Copilot. When it comes to Bard and other platforms, like I think Anthropic is doing a great job, or no, Perplexity is doing. Which one is it that does?
Yeah, Perplexity is like the search one.
Yeah, Perplexity is doing a great job, sort of leaning into a niche around improved World Wide Web searching, so internet browsing experience, like improvements over Google. I think that that's a really good niche that someone should fill because that's not what a foundation model is good for at all. But I do think that we'll see more specialization, which leans exactly into what you're saying about the GPTs becoming more prevalent and more useful. And if there's discoverability in a store and it's available through Copilot for free, unless the GPT itself is paid, there's definitely an opportunity there for them to really reach a huge audience. And even with ChatGPT, even if you're paying for Plus, you obviously then you would also have access, but that free access, I think, through Copilot would be positive. But I do think that I'm consistently surprised by the number of people that we interact with, or when we interact with separately, who just don't use this tech at all, who are really intelligent, very proficient people who do, they have cool jobs. And I think that there just isn't a niche enough tool in each of those subsets, right, for them to actually get a lot of utility from it. So I think
Yeah.
that we'll see specializations and specializations and specializations. Like I really would love to see, and I think that there will be in 24. I think the technology's at least close, if not already there, to have an assistant that can really assist me with understanding and prioritizing reminders and even being able to potentially leverage my email from within that. I've tried that in Bard. I haven't been able to. So,
Yeah.
I think that there will be more automation possible. But I think that automation is difficult with these large foundation models because it just doesn't have enough context on what you actually want.
Yeah.
So I do think that there'll be specialization.
Yeah. It'd be fun to see people start building things that require more context and detail from you before you use it.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge unlock there where people can build solutions that either, you give access to, like if you were to give access to a Google Drive with a bunch of stuff you had in there, and it could go in there for context and then create kind of a knowledge base. And then when you use it, it references all the information about you already.
Exactly.
I would love to see people build more stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun. I mean, there's interesting problems to solve before everybody can have a sweet assistant,
Definitely.
And there's not that, there's a lot of people working and developing in the space, but there's so much room for everything. Like and there's so much time to do it all. It's wild.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do feel like there's always this worry that there's not a worry, but there's so much distraction. There's more, instead of people telling me that they use them, there's more people telling me that they're afraid of them or asking about AGI or saying that they're worried about their data. And I understand. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel as though it's a little bit of like a techno optimist perspective that I tend to have, and that's not something that is new since whoever that was, and Mark Andreessen had written that tweet storm.
Yeah.
It's just a general sort of thought that even kind of spurs from David Friedberg, who just like is a permanent optimist about the technology and what it can do. And I find that really inspiring. And I think that it's just too much focus on I mean, it's fine. It makes opportunity for those of us who are building, but I do think that there is so much space to build fun stuff.
Yeah.
People are doing so much really sort of niche, random things, and I guess that maybe I'm just sort of talking about, I really would like to have something that's a really efficient assistant, but I just don't really know how to build it just yet. What I'm doing is I'm building multiple GPTs that are specific assistants, but in terms of the recall of memory, it's just extremely limited on that side for a GPT. So, and the idea that you would be uploading new documentation every day on the back end of it, it's just very clunky. So it's not really where I want it to be. Yeah. But it is possible to a certain extent. It just would require a lot of work, and I just don't have the time to put in that work every single day to make it updated or new or maybe weekly. I'm using it for other things, but there's definitely room for so much improvement. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's wild. And I think, I don't know. It's going to be if you told me at the beginning of the year that we'd be sitting here and both building AI throughout the day to help us make our day easier and to solve things, I probably wouldn't have believed it. Like, it would be like, oh, it's easy and you don't have to code to do it. You can literally do it all through natural language.
Yeah.
It would have felt like a far off stretch, and it's very much a reality. And I think that the techno optimist part is like, we know that and we see it and we experience it, and other people do default to just kind of being worried about it.
Yeah.
And it's a good spot to be if you're a person that watches this and you don't play around with AI regularly. It's the best thing I think you could do to ensure that you're ready for the next few years,
Yeah.
Because you can really leapfrog and get better. Even just if I was still working in marketing at like Chubby's or like as a copywriter somewhere, I'd be building custom GPTs to make coming up with ideas for writing easier, brainstorming partners, copy editors, like building things that help me edit things that I write or look through them for improvements, or take things I write and then write creative different things based on the same concept to see if new ideas come through, and just building small little things for tasks that make it easier and maybe a little more fun and make it easier to discover new ideas, like very simple things like that you can do for your day-to-day job. Like if you write emails, you could be like, well, serve it the email first and see if it gives you ideas on things to respond and things to say,
Mhm.
and tailor it to things that you want. Because I do think 2024 will be much bigger on tailoring things for yourself. Like we're gonna, if you can get good at, especially with GPTs, building your own is so great. And if you can tailor it for little things, it's going to make life a lot easier for people to just go into a little thing. And instead of, feeling like they have to start from scratch, you can put in a little bit and start from midway through your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it becomes much easier to accomplish some things.
Yeah, it's amazing how different the mind works. Also, when you say things out loud, I find so when I'm talking up, even if I'm talking to the app, it's really interesting that insights that, and like sort of the way that the conversation develops is very different from when I'm just sitting and thinking about it, even writing about it. So
Yeah.
it's really, really fun to sort of have that partner. It's really, I think it's fascinating. It's a little weird. If you told me 10 years ago I'd be talking to my phone in that way, I wouldn't have believed you.
Oh yeah, 2013.
Yeah.
No fucking way.
Yeah, right. It's fascinating.
I know. It's going to be interesting. I'm personally excited for it, and all the fear that people have, I don't necessarily have.
Yeah.
Especially because I feel the limitations.
Yeah.
And there's, it defaulting to fear is never, I think, great.
Yeah.
Being aware of problems is important, but keeping you from, if you're not exploring the possibilities already, it's time.
Definitely.
2024, make a New Year's resolution.
Yeah. I do see it as being a potential really solid writing partner. And I plan on building a GPT for that, because for one of the things I work on, we do, we manage food brands that have pretty specific niches. Like organic coffee is really different from non-organic coffee, and extra virgin olive oil is a little bit of a gimmick, but single origin or single varietal olive oil is really, really specific and interesting distinction. And at what adaptogens are and the types of adaptogens and why some are not allowed to be sold in Whole Foods, for example, which is interesting. Like cordyceps are not allowed to be sold in Whole Foods. Those sorts of ideas are kind of abstract, and I'm not a nutritionist. And it'd be fun to have a GPT separately that you can use to brainstorm ideas for what to eat, and like just like little fun, like simple things. Like, there's so much time, and like sometimes there's even angst or tension in relationships because of a lack of like ability to make decisions that it could potentially help with and mitigate the risk of infighting with people you are with all the time. But more importantly, with the other option, it's like to surface ideas and draw connections between things that I might not think of intuitively or off the cuff. It's not. There's this sentiment, I think, when I first had read about this stuff, especially in writing, that it's almost like cheating. But I think that it would definitely be very, very lazy intellectually to just copy and paste the outputs, and it probably wouldn't be nearly as good. I can't imagine that it would be. And that would literally, that's sort of a plagiarism, and plagiarism is just that's intuitively not a good thing to practice. And so there is a distinction to use it for an idea brainstorming partner. I think is very, very helpful in terms of drawing connections that you might not have intuitively, like I'd said. So I do foresee myself building that. I was speaking with that business partner not long ago about doing just that, to have content available more readily, because people ask us these questions very often, and we just want to have something to point them to. And they'd be relatively low lift for us to have a writing partner. It would probably decrease our amount of time spent on it by upwards of 80%. Like we would be able to really put these together much more quickly, I think, which is so amazing. It really is crazy. So like from a writing partner to like a nutrition partner to even just like being like having somebody you can like discuss things with. Like for me, I use it a lot for business planning.
Yeah.
And making sure that I'm not wrong about things, because I don't really, some of the things I'm going off of things that I've read, and I just want to, get a better breadth of understanding on these different topics. But even just as like, there are a lot of studies about loneliness and how people really can benefit from having somebody to talk to. And I haven't really dove into that. I know we spoke about pie months ago and how that's like the main use case for pie, which is fascinating. I think that there are a lot of people out there who do spend a lot of time behind a computer whose propensity to have a relationship with artificial intelligence is actually really, really high in comparison to having a relationship with a physical human. And so there's a use case there, and there's definitely a market for it. Not something I'm like super personally bullish on or focused on, but I think that there's so many things, and
Yeah.
I think that
AI friends. I mean, there's a chance that there's way more of them with the release of, OpenAI's new API where you can use 4 voices,
Mhm.
royalty free.
Yeah.
There's going to be people building it.
Even just related back to like the math tutor idea that I've said ad nauseum, or just a tutor idea, because there's literally a shortage of really good teachers and tutors. And so if you could provide every student with that, or every person with that, it's a net positive for the world, for humanity. It's a really, really good thing, just objectively. So it's similar in now that we're talking about it out loud, it's similar with the friendship. Like not everybody has the ability or like feels comfortable or to have something that you can interact with infinite patience and infinite like it's not really understanding as much as it's it tolerates whatever it is you'd like to say, no matter how acceptable it might be. If you're somebody who's so socially abstracted and I don't really know, I just was thinking to myself, it maybe is a really good thing to have that availability of a companion for people who don't know how to find a human companion to speak to, which then can help them bridge the gap between those two things, because they've been made to feel like they're in a techno dystopia, right?
I mean, there's already been some kind of grooming and onboarding to this with Alexa, Google's Nest, or Google, I forget what Google's is called.
Yeah, Nest.
But people are pretty regularly talking to appliances now, getting them to do things. So it would not be weird for that to be built on top of. And there's a chance that some of that starts to happen in 2024.
Yeah, I saw someone built a GPT with custom instructions. Maybe it wasn't a GPT as much as it was like they had put custom instructions into their own ChatGPT interface before GPTs were announced. When the Whisper Tech had been announced, and what they were doing was they're a manager of a team, and they, on their drive and their commute to the office every day, they put it on the airplane in their car, and they talk with it about the one-on-ones and how to improve the thing, and like brainstorm ideas and how to be a better leader and how to have these difficult discussions that are coming up that day. So it requires training each night for the following day's commute, but it's really, really interesting use case to find blind spots.
Yeah, exactly. It's a partner, Yeah,
it's crazy.
Or like an assistant, I think is a good word for it right now. And it might be the year. I mean, ChatGPT or OpenAI came out with the Assistants API, which I've yet to play with, but the goal in making it easier to build things that do multiple things. And part of that could be pulling updated information, pulling from a knowledge base. And maybe assistants will be like people are worried about it taking their jobs, when in reality, next year might just be fully leaning into things that assist people better than they already have this year, which I think is kind of what GPTs are. It's probably a good direction to go in, especially OpenAI tends to want to slowly roll things out. They don't want the reason that they are doing this is to build AGI, but to make sure that people are used to it and that the distribution is equitable. Everybody gets a chance to benefit from it. And it would make sense for the next year to lean into, highly personalized assistance, which would be cool.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most exciting things for me is something that makes life easier, a little easier, because a lot of the stuff is monotonous and it gives you the opportunity to do more, to be more creative. I mean, building an app is something that sounded so fun for me for ages. And now it's something I get to do with a very general assistant. And having a more personalized version of that would be rad. And also being able to build other stuff, not immediately, but semi-quickly with the help of an assistant would be awesome. And maybe something that, is not far off, months off. You never know.
Yeah, I do definitely love the idea that a lot of people, I think in the very near future, will have like a Chuck GPT or Eric GPT, and then that can interface on my behalf, understanding my context with people
Yeah.
without me having to I can trust it to do certain things for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, send it to watch a movie for me, to stick with that. I think that there's definitely a distinction between the things that I want to enjoy and spend my time doing versus the things that I'd like to outsource to something that are relatively simple tasks, like email replying.
Yeah.
So much of it is just data recall and the ability to, reply with a document that exists through keyword search. And I think that that's a huge waste of my time personally, but it is a huge part of what it is that I have to do daily. And so I would really love to outsource that to a bot.
Yeah.
A lot of people outsource that to, executive assistants, and it's just not something that I've prioritized enough to pay for. But I think about that all the time. I'd love to have something that's a little bit more of a personalized bot, or something that even, if I want to go to a show, or I want to go and book a flight, or I want to, I've got to go to a few different conferences this year for food, for work, and I'd really, really love to be able to, set, allow for my bot to do that for me.
Yeah.
To look up some flights, look up some hotels, give me the options in terms of the dates of the, it has to look at the date of the event, it has to look at, and I guess we're talking about those agents again, I guess, but
Yeah.
I don't think we're that far off from that specific use case. It just is a little bit more interoperability.
Yeah.
We did this huge leap forward with the ability to speak to it and for the ability for it to see, and I think that those are probably much harder technological problems to solve than to get this to reply to emails on my behalf with my voice, So I do think I'm very bullish on that idea. I think that'd be a more effective and less. I think people would be less frustrated in general if they're able to spend their time doing things that they enjoy more.
Yeah. There's also, we didn't dig too deep into it, but Microsoft's Copilot that's built into their suite. So if you pay for Microsoft Teams, you can pay for Copilot. But their release was kind of like that, having an assistant in email, in Sheets, in PowerPoint, and Microsoft Word that prompts you pretty easily to do stuff and can pull knowledge from your other areas. It's like a good first step towards that, I think. I don't know when they'll ever make that more fully available. It's probably mad expensive right now, like pretty expensive. But
I haven't tried it.
Yeah, I think that's a cool, and they're kind of positioning it as, we're helping enterprise customers, be more efficient. And I think people understand that, especially people who are like, is it going to be Terminator? Like, are they going to take us over? Are they time travelers? In reality, if they're like, oh, this makes my workday so much easier, it's going to be, people will be using it way, way more and be surprised at how easily it integrates into their life.
Yeah.
As long as they learn the right ways to use it,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like the iPod in that way. It's like everyone loves music and we love the radio, but then to have access to it is hard to imagine until you have it. And then it's like, how could I possibly have done this without it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And then you have this huge shift that just feels natural, and you kind of forget the way things used to be pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Very adaptable. I saw somebody say something about that, they were surprised at how quick people have just accepted how well AI can do stuff now. But then they're like, look at what happened during in 2020, where people just quickly got used to the way things were, and it was the new norm.
Yeah.
And we all just went forward with some scars, but people are quick to change.
Yeah.
And I will be quick to change as well. It's fun.
Yeah, I think it's good. I really, really look forward to that efficiency gain. I hope it's not stifled in the name of AGI is so threatening. I really hope not.
Okay, me too.
But I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to keep track of and to continue to keep a pulse on. It's really fun. It's a fun industry. It's very hopeful. There's definitely some of that doom and gloom for sure. And, you see those headlines every day. But there's also a lot of hope, a lot of builders, a lot of really fun entrepreneurs who are bootstrapped, who are building things that are relatively simple, but definitely making money. And people are still discovering what it is that people want, I think. And as the store and availability of these things becomes more and more, I think it'll be really interesting to see what becomes most popular. There will definitely be trends and phases of it, right? Because in the beginning they were like flashlight apps that then were completely made obsolete by virtue of the fact that it then became a native feature of the phone. And there'll be a lot of that, I bet. I don't know what it will look like, but it'll be fun to keep track of. I do think it's very generally trending optimistic. If you're keeping track of what's going on in the building space, so like what people are actually putting it to use for. resoundingly positive.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason alone, I'd like to stay really close to it, just because it's fun. It's certainly more exciting than reading about how terrible things are.
Yeah, let's do a big. Let's make a wild assumption. Let's do like one wild assumption or big prediction for 2024.
Do you have anything in mind?
I haven't thought of one, but I'll think this is almost like a hot take.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we always just end up doing off the cuff anyway, so it's
Yeah.
perfect. A big prediction for me would be that something crazy. I think we'll see autonomous cars in way more cities.
Oh, that's a good one.
With that, yeah, just with the way vision models are going and AI making it, it's just going leaps and bounds ahead of what it can do with vision. I think we could see some big breakthroughs. And the cool thing with a lot of the work that's already been done is I think they can upload a lot of that to already existing self-driving projects. And so we might see, it getting way better. And this year they released driverless taxis in San Francisco. And when I was in Austin, there were cars all over the place that were driverless that were just testing,
Cool.
instead of pilot programs. So I think we see that become more normal.
Yeah,
which is wild.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I definitely, when I'm driving around New York City, wish that I could be doing something else. Not that I want to be elsewhere as much as I just want to be able to do something while I drive.
Yeah,
and so that is kind of a dream come true.
Yeah, that would be wild.
It'd be really, really. It just would allow for me to be get more done. Right. I mean,
yeah.
And then it would make traffic much more tolerable. Because it could be used, the time could be used. Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's a kind of a hot take is that there'll be a lot more adoption of this. I think that there will be a lot more personalized use cases.
Yeah.
The only reason it feels like it's a far out idea is because I just don't know how you can get it into people's pockets without Apple really focusing on LLMs, right? I think that there would need to be some sort of partnership that they got into, and I don't know who that would be with, and what that would look like, but it'd be really, really fun, I think, for people to really sort of take the scary mask off of AI, because it's really not. I think that the usefulness of it far outweighs the scariness of it.
Yeah.
I understand and I love sci-fi and I love the Matrix, and that idea certainly is terrifying. But I definitely don't think that we're there.
Yeah.
And not to say that I'm the expert in the room, but I just find so much use in these things the more that I customize them. And I would love if they were more customized out of the box and I was able to make them even more customized without so much work. So maybe there's an opportunity there for us to build things, but there's always the platform risk of building on top of something like OpenAI, but I don't know. I'm interested to see how that progresses, and I really, really hope that in 2024 there is a much larger adoption from all sorts of people. I think it doesn't even have to get rid of executive assistants, right? It could make executive assistants much more effective.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say that I'd like to see people lose their jobs as much as I'd like for people's jobs to be made easier. They're able to do their work more efficiently and focus on the things they like.
Yeah.
While working. I think that there's this misconception when people say, I want for it to do a lot of the work for me, that they would then just go fuck off and not do any work or not be valuable for the economy. And I don't think that that's really true. People don't go from being ambitious to being complete deadbeats.
Yeah.
I just don't really know how realistic that is.
I think on this year, it's like, oh yeah, we had access to really great AI. We did accomplish more than we had in previous years sometimes. Exactly. Where it's like, I feel personally, like for me, I accomplished much more and made much more progress than I had in other years towards the things that I really wanted to do, which I think people will start to realize they get to do.
Exactly.
It could be personal goals where you're like, I want to spend more time learning piano. And it's like, well, if you work, 25% less, you could add that into your schedule. You have more free time,
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much possibilities. Or if you wanted to start a side business or learn a new thing or start studying to get a different job, You could, if you're doing your job more efficiently and making the same money, if not more, because you're doing it better and your company's doing better, you have the opportunity to do that on the side and enhanced with AI and learn it quicker. I think when people realize I think that's the reality of what it's going to be like,
Yeah,
you get more done.
exactly. And you're able to do something like paint or play piano or get a dog or cook better, or, or even cook at all. A lot of people tell me they don't have time to cook,
Yeah.
which it's kind of sad. It's fine, whatever, but it's ultimately, yeah, I don't know. There's so many things you could do with that little bit of time back. I still feel like I don't have nearly enough time every single day.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's good. Yeah, those are good. That's like generally very optimistic.
Yeah,
which is very good.
Yeah, I think we'll see that. Well, yeah, this will probably be. I think we'll cut this into 2 because it's almost an hour.
Is it? Yeah, I can't really see from here.
And we'll cut it into 2, and this will probably get us through the end of the year. So
crazy.
Yeah, I know. We'll be coming back in 2024 where you'll see every single prediction come to life.
That's
that
right,
we talked
dude.
about.
Yeah. And if you didn't notice or you skipped the last episode, Erich was right about Sam Altman coming back as CEO for Microsoft. So you're going to hear it here first.
I'm an oracle, dude.
Yeah, way better Oracle than ChatGPT, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Which is a reasoning engine for clarity's sake.
Yeah. For clarity's sake.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, it's been a good year. We started this as the Crypto Blue Hour in February, and after a month, 2 months, we're crypto and AI, and then very quickly we're just like, no, we're only talking about AI.
Yeah, I think it was April 12th or something.
Yeah,
13th.
It's been a wild ride.
We pivoted.
Yeah, we did a pivot.
Yeah,
and for the best. It'll be a year to remember, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm shocked people watch it. I'm very grateful. So it's cool they even know that someone's getting value potentially from it. But yeah, even just for us, I think it's really, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, it's definitely been fun to look back and really cringe at so much of how I look and what I say and how, all these things. It's fun to try to articulate things.
I know. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, awesome. All right, shout out to Josiah Soren and to young Jack John. Josiah for the tunes, and who probably still doesn't know that we even use them.
No, probably not.
And then to Jack for helping us out with the editing. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe we can sneak one in, but it was a busy time of the year, so maybe not. But yeah, we'll probably at the very latest see you back here in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Epic.